welcome to Families Grow Together by Hand in Hand Community. This is number 16 show. And for today, we'll be talking about being intentional. What does that really mean? What does that really mean? Being intentional. You might have some ideas, but I will just hand over to Aqua, who will tell us, who will really explain to us what this means. Because to me, I feel like this is one of the buzzwords that people are using now, that I need to be intentional, I must be intentional. But let's hear from Aqua what that is and how we can become intentional as well, and what are probably the advantages of being intentional. So I will hand over to Aqua. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, any comments, anything, please put in the comments and we will talk about it. If it's questions, we will answer. So I will hand over. Oh, I've not introduced myself. So I am Nelly Kwasumi, a transformational life coach. I'll hand over to Aqua to tell us what being intentional is. So over to you, Aqua.
Good evening, everyone. Being intentional, what is it? I guess simple, short and simple, doing things on purpose. Right. Hi, everyone. I am Aqua. I am an early intervention practitioner, and I work with children and families, especially those who are delayed in their learning and development, especially in the area of speech and language development. So today, as Nelly said, it's our 16th show, and we're excited to be talking about being intentional. Now, like Nelly said, it's a buzzword that a lot of people are using at the moment. So why not talk about it in our own little environment? We all have a sphere of influence, and we all know that not everybody is aware of everything that is happening, especially in the area of personal development. So we thought in this month, we will look at different aspects of that can help us grow as individuals. And so this week we thought, okay, being intentional, what is it? And there are so many reasons why it's important to be intentional. So we're just going to look at the definition of what being intentional is, what people who are intentional do, some of the things that we can do as individuals on a daily basis to become more intentional. And we're going to maybe look at an example of how being intentional in an aspect of your life may look like, because being intentional can be put in your business life, your personal life, your spiritual life, in all sorts of in all aspects of your life. Why did I think about being intentional this week? It came from my Bible studies, really. Most often than not, all what I've done this month is all about what I've been doing in my spiritual life, which has translated into my personal life, as in with my parenting and with my job as well. And so this week I was looking at Proverbs 2, and I saw this verse that spoke to me really strongly. And it was talking about how we can seek wisdom. So we have to seek wisdom as if we're seeking for treasure. And when I read that, I'm like, when you want to seek for treasure, what do? You have to know that there is treasure somewhere. You have to go and look for treasure. You have to plan to find this treasure. And I thought, in our personal lives, if we want our personal lives to be good, we have to work at it as if we're seeking for treasure, because the most important thing in life, things in life are those that are not even bought with money. And sometimes we neglect these things. So I thought, okay, let's talk about being intentional. So what is it? So being intentional is doing something on purpose, being deliberate about what we are doing. Could be maybe the way you talk to people, could be the way you cook your food, could be the way you parent. You have to do things on purpose. So you set your mind to something and you do it. So, which means that you choose to make decisions, whether good or bad. People can be intentional about doing the wrong thing as much as they can be intentional about doing the right thing. So whatever the decision that you're making, you have to be deliberate about what you're doing. And you take action on what's important to you. So being intentional means that you have to take action about things that are important to you. So what are the most important things in your life? If having a good relationship is very important to you, you'll be intentional on how you build that relationship. If your most important thing to you is working and getting money, then you have to be intentional about seeking after the money. So how you do your job or the business or whatever. So it's about making decisions and taking actions on the things that are important to you. So being intentional increases our focus. And it helps us when we set a clear intention for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year, for 5 years. So when you're clear about what you want, then it's easier for you to be intentional about how to go about achieving what you have set as your intention. So intentional people are action-oriented. They don't just go with the flow. They are focused. They have a strong mindset, because if you're intentional about the things that you really want to achieve, then you have to be strong, first of all, in your mind. Because if you're not strong in your mind, you are going to be blown about by any wind that comes your way. So intentional people have a strong mindset. They have an unshakable determination to accomplish whatever they have set their minds to. So these are some of the characteristics of people who have of intentional people. And can anybody be intentional, or is it just for some category of people? You know, they talk about personalities and temperaments and things like that. And we know that people who are choleric are strong weight on the focus. We know that people who are sanguine are alive and present and loud. We know that people who are melancholic are sometimes very down, or phlegmatic people take their time to do things quite slow. But can everybody be intentional? Yes, because no matter your temperament, if you set your mind to achieving anything, you can achieve it. It may take some people longer than others, but if you set your mind to something, you can achieve it. So everybody can be intentional about the way they live their lives. Now, to become intentional, you have to first of all know yourself. You have to be self-aware. You have to know the kind of person that you are. And you have to sometimes say no more than you say yes, because when it comes to being intentional and you've set yourself some goals and you want to achieve some things, there will be distractions that will come your way. And what do you do about those distractions? Do you just stop and just help that person who comes along the way, or stop, oh, that thing is going on the TV, let me just watch it for 5 minutes? No, people who are intentional are very focused people, and they say no more than they say yes, because they know exactly where they're going, they want to go and achieve their goals and things like that. They practice gratitude more, because when you're intentional, you notice a lot of things, especially the good things you want to achieve. And when you want to achieve a lot of things, you are more aware of how full your life is, because you cannot be saying no if you have an empty life. And so it's easier for people who are very intentional to be more grateful, because they know exactly where they're going, they know what they have to achieve, and they know the importance of enjoying or appreciating what they have. So they focus more on abundance rather than lack. Because if you're intentional, for example, if let's say you're intentional about building a relationship and growing that relationship, you're not going to be looking more about the negative sides of that relationship. You're going to try and focus on the things that can make that relationship better. And the things that can make the relationship better is the strengths of the person you're trying to build a relationship with, be it your spouse, be it your partner, be it your child, or your colleagues. You're going to try and focus on the good things that will help that relationship grow, rather than the negative things. So they focus on the abundance, they have an abundant mindset. So what can we do on a daily basis to become more intentional? Because these things are some of the things that we sometimes neglect. Because when you do not plan, you plan to fail. So failing to plan is planning to fail. And like I said earlier, when you want to achieve something, you have to be focused. You have to know exactly what you want, and then you go after it. So what are some of the things that we can do on a daily basis to be more intentional? So the first thing is that we have to be deliberate with our day. What does that mean? It means that we have to plan, we have to focus our time and our energy each day on what we want to achieve for that day. So that will increase our productivity. We will know exactly what we are going to be doing in the morning, in the afternoon, what we want to get by the end of the day. Now, I am not very good at this. So I set my mind to learning this year about wisdom. And like I said earlier, becoming more aware. If you are more aware of who you are, then you know what you need to work on, and you know what your strengths are. And it's important that we know these things. So we have to deliberate about our day. Nelly always talks about putting everything in your diary, putting everything in your diary. So you have to schedule it. Tony Robbins says, if you have it in your mind, yeah, it's still a dream. But when you schedule it, it's gonna happen. So put it down in your diary. I need to work on that. So get clear on the vision for your day and the purpose. And so you get a good goal for that day. So the second thing is to be clear on the results you want, because it's not only enough for you to have a goal. You need to know what the outcome is that you want for that day. And you need to be able to measure it to know that, okay, this is what I want, and this is what victory is going to look like. So you may want to write a book, for example. For maybe it's a big project. You may want to break it down into measurable goals. So you're going to set it, you say, by the end of these days, maybe I want to design the cover of the book. That is what success is going to look like for me. Or maybe by the end of this day, I would have researched the different colors and the different items that I should put on my cover of the cover of my book. So you have to have a clear result in mind, so that by the end of the day, you can measure it to see you've taken action, you focus on taking action, and this is what the outcome has been. Doesn't mean that every day you're going to succeed, but if you know what you're aiming for, then you're more likely to get it or get towards it. So the third thing is to be purposeful with your time. Be in the zone. Don't get drawn about the distractions and try and start. Tony Robbins has this time management ring circle thing, wanting to be on the bull's eye. I cannot say it all now, but you have the zone of distraction, where you just want to go watch TV. You know that you have things to do, but different things distract you, and you start cleaning your desk. Instead of focusing on working on that book cover, you're setting things aside, you're arranging papers that have been there for 1 month, just because you don't want to focus on that goal, on that activity that you're doing. Sometimes I do this, most times do it. I'm not just, let me not lie, I do it all the time. But I am learning to try and stay focused on what I am doing. So be purposeful with your time. So if you know that you're easily distracted, set yourself blocks of time where you can, okay, say the next 90 minutes, I'm going to focus. After those 90 minutes, maybe take a break and then go do some things here and there, and then you come back and then set yourself another block where you focus. So schedule these times that you're going to do certain things. So you have to be purposeful on your time. You be considered about your focus. What are you going to focus on exactly? Like I said about the book cover, you can choose to focus on one aspect of your project and make sure that you do it thoroughly and finish it and prioritize effectively. So it's important that we prioritize the things that we are going to do each day. Fifth thing is to become focused on your goals. Now, these things seem similar, but they have little nuances, right? So your goals, you need to write them down. so that when you're going along, you're planning and you're achieving those steps, you're ticking off. Yes, there's something about ticking off things that makes you feel like, yes, I've done something productive today. So be focused on your goals. If you feel distracted, come back, bring yourself back, hold yourself and say, come back to this meeting with yourself, meeting with your project, meeting with your outcomes. So it's important that we are focused on our goals and be mindful of your most important relationships, because it is important to achieve those goals that we've set for ourselves, but it's most important to maintain your relationships and to be mindful of the important relationships in your lives, because you can set yourself a goal of maybe becoming financially free in the next 3 years, and then you're so focused on that goal that you forget people. Now, choleric people, like somebody like me, they say we're task-oriented. We'll pick the task over people every time. So if I come back from work, maybe the kids have not done what they're supposed to do, instead of me asking, oh, kids, how you doing? And finding and engaging with them, first thing that I see is they've not washed the dishes. So I am more focused on the task than the people. So instead of coming and encouraging them, having a good time with them before I say, okay, go do your job. First thing I see is the task has not been done because I am a task-oriented person. So it's being aware of being mindful of your relationships so that you do not lose relationships on the way to how you want to achieve. So those are some of the things. So it's important to
Aqua, sorry to interrupt. Your internet is breaking.
And to work on your relationships. So when you focus on being intentional every day, you feel clearer and more capable and more intentional. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you're frozen on the screen.
Right, so I was just summing up anyway. All right, great. All right.
Yeah. Okay, now you've gone. Okay, Aqua's internet is playing up, but she is just connecting. She has given up that nice presentation, and she's back here to summarize. So over to you, Aqua. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, internet. Right. Okay. I was just summing up anyway. I was summing up and said when you focus on being intentional every day, you feel clearer about what you want to achieve. You're more capable of achieving it, and you become more confident because you know exactly what you're going to be doing. You know the steps that you need to take to do it, to do what you're doing, and so it gives you more confidence that okay, this can really be achieved. And to be intentional, you get clear upfront goals. So you know exactly what you want to achieve. You understand the importance of why you need to achieve it, and you take more focused action on a daily basis towards achieving those things that you set your mind to. So being purposeful and deliberate builds a positive mindset. It helps you become more present in the moment and gives you your life a greater clarity and meaning. So these are some of the things that I thought we'd talk about. And I am working on it, and I hope you work on it too. So let's just say, for example, we'll look at one example because there are quite a few things we can be intentional about. Now, for me, I'll talk more about child development. I could focus on being intentional about my spiritual life, like I'm doing right now. I can focus on building my client list and relationships, on my parenting and things like that. But I'll choose, oh, the internet is unstable again. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So I'll choose child development, and as a parent, what we can do about how we can be intentional about supporting our children learn and develop. So if you have a child who is delayed in an aspect of their development, speech and language, say, first thing that you need to do is make sure that you know exactly what the situation is. You're not an expert, so find the people who can help you. Get an assessment for your child. So you're intentional about seeking help for your child. Get an assessment done. Whatever the services that they're offering, get engaged. Find out more about it. What do I need to be doing? What is my role in the whole process? And if I don't have any particular role, who can I be talking to give me feedback, to keep me up to date on what is happening? Now, if you go to the therapy, ask questions about what the process is. Why are you doing what you're doing? Because sometimes when you work with parents, they see you doing simple activities like rolling a ball to a child, and they think, or you give them an activity sheet like spend 5 minutes with your child building blocks, and they're wondering, what has that got to do with talking? My child is not talking, you're asking me to build blocks to them. What has that got to do with anything? Or roll a ball to them and back and forth. So ask questions if you don't know why they've given you these activities to do, so that you understand, because the more you know the why, the more likely you are to do it. So ask questions about what the speech therapist is doing, or your early intervention practitioner. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Why have you given me this activity to do? And if I'm not able to, what else can I do? If I don't have these particular toys in my house, what are the substitutes that I can use? And continue being engaged in the process. If they say they're giving you 6 weeks, why are you giving me only 6 weeks? In 6 weeks, what do you think will happen in 6 weeks? Ask questions so that you're aware. Things are not just happening to you. You're in the process. And so when you go to the therapy, ask questions, watch them. How are they doing these things? Because another thing is, we may have these children, we may have lots of toys for the children, but we don't know how to play with these toys. We don't know how to play with our children. So ask questions, be engaged, watch and pick up some tips on how to engage with your child. So those are some of the things. So for speech and language, always, that is as simple as it can be. Be intentional about the process, what you're getting out of it, who is accountable, and how simple example that I can give. So I hope this has been useful to us. So I will talk about, when we're discussing, we'll give other tips about being intentional, but for now, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Aqua, thank you so much for that explanation of being intentional, first from the meaning to characteristics of being intentional. And what, I will not summarize everything, but I'll just pick up some few points. Mm-hmm. So what some of the things that I've heard you say, and you've repeated them, is you talked about purposeful and be deliberate. Take action, and action is something that it really came through to be very, very strong. And then you talked about mindset, be self-aware, focus, gratitude. Again, be deliberate. And then you gave an example on child development, children with language delays. So thank you so much for that. But while we were talking, I just had so many questions. I don't know if you'll be ready to answer them, but anyhow, okay.
I'll try.
So being intentional, that's a big word to me, because how do we start to become or to be intentional? What is the process? Because I don't know if you can just wake up in the morning and just say, I will be intentional. Going back to mindset, there are so many things that I believe you need to take into consideration. Just tell us a bit more about that. What are the things that go through your mind, or how can you choose what to be intentional about?
Right. How can I choose what to be intentional about? It's all about what's important to you, because you cannot get up and just choose to be intentional about watching TV. Or yeah, it could be, if that's what's important to you today, maybe the day where you want to be intentional about watching that series that you want. So it is all about what's important to you. What are your priorities? What do you want to focus on? Because it's something that you have to want to do in order to do it. If you're not somebody who has goals, who has ambition, who is driven, it's going to be difficult for you to be intentional. But all of these things can be learned. It is about developing yourself as an individual. We have to grow, because if we're not growing, we're dying. As Tony Robbins always says, if you're not growing, you're dying. You cannot just stand at the same place, because it is important that we are moving from one level to another, either up or down. You cannot stagnate. And I'll always go back to scriptures, because that is my view. That's where my viewpoint, my worldview is. It says we move from glory to glory. So you have to grow from one hilltop to another. And sometimes it's undulating. So when you get up in the morning, you cannot just get up and say, I'm going to be purposeful today. You could get up in that morning and say, okay, if you've not set your goals for that day, if you don't know what you're going to do that day, it's going to be difficult for you to be purposeful and intentional about that day. But that notwithstanding, if you get up in the morning and say, today, I'm going to choose one thing to be purposeful about, maybe the way I talk to people, you can do it. You're going to be mindful about your words. You're going to be smiling more, because being intentional is more often positive than negative. Because it is difficult as a human being to get up and just decide that I am going to be horrible to people today. That innately, even if we are as bad as what, it's going to be difficult for you to, I don't know, maybe people do that, but being intentional is most often than not trying to do the best that we can in a specific area in our life. So when we get up in the morning, if you not plan your day, maybe take 5-10 minutes or 15 minutes, 30 minutes in the morning and say, okay, this is what I want to achieve for this day. Set some goals. I want to be more intentional about my parenting, be present. What does that look like with my children? You evaluate how you previously behave in the morning. Maybe in the morning, you usually get up like I do, stand at the bottom of the corridor, children, wake up! What is he doing in bed? I can choose to say, okay, maybe I'll get up in the morning, I'll purposely go into their rooms. If they're still sleeping, I'll shake them gently, I'll wake them up gently. So that will be intentionality on my part then. So it's about trying to make things better. I don't know if I've answered your questions, but you can get up in the morning, decide that I'll be intentional about my interactions with people. I'll be intentional about my parenting. These are the things that I want to do. You don't have to do everything perfect. Just choose one thing, because it starts with one. If you choose one thing to be intentional about, then it grows, builds up. You become more confident. Oh, I did it. You feel good about yourself. I can do more. They increase. They keep layering and scaffolding, and building on what you've already achieved.
Okay, thank you so much for that. When you were talking, especially when you got to the point of being intentional is only positive, I wasn't so sure I got that right.
I know.
Because it isn't. Because just thinking, some people wake up and all they think about is, I have to get revenge. This person thinks that they can get away with it. No way. Obviously, that is
all right.
fueling the ego.
Yeah.
And it's negative. Because if someone has done something wrong and you are intentional to pay them back by doing wrong. No two wrongs make a right. So I just thought when you said that, I was just like, nope.
But
No.
sometimes we speak from the abundance of our own hearts, because that is where I want to come from. That is where I want to go. I'm trying to build myself up positively. So it's hard for me to say that I'm going to, talk about being intentionally negative. It's hard. So yes.
No. Yeah, I mean, from your own point of view, you don't want to be intentionally negative, but there are some people
Yeah.
who are intentionally negative, just want to do the I mean, we might think of it as the wrong thing, but to them, it's the right thing because they want to get that
Yeah.
ego satisfaction that they have done this, they have shown that person that they are more than them and things like that. And which we know that the ego is just a survivor and it is the opposite. I mean, ego is fueled by fear and is the opposite of who we really are. We are made up of love. Okay, let me not go too much into that because I know if I do, Aqua will tell me off.
Of course. We're here to
So,
sharpen each other.
yeah, so the other thing is talked about that caught my attention is asking questions. To me, it is massive because that is something that I always say and I encourage people to ask questions and being mindful of the fact that the community we deal with, not completely, or our background, African community, we do not ask questions, particularly because of the way we were brought up. Because when we were growing up, in most families, when your parent or an elder tells you that this is it, you don't dare ask why. So, because we have seen our parents and those who are older than us as people in authority, when we now and as adults, we get to a stage where we doubt things, we don't ask because those people, say the professionals, they might not be older than us, but we see them as they have more power. They are authority figures. So then it goes back to our default setting. Oh, they have more power. I cannot ask a question. And then, like Aqua said, everything is to develop because, yes, we were brought up that way. It doesn't mean that we continue living that way because to an extent, we realize that it is limiting our life chances and it is impacting our children. So start from somewhere. Aqua talked about self-awareness. It's to be so inquisitive, to ask questions about yourself. Even if you talk to yourself, ask the questions because your whole experience is within you. You have access to that, but it will take you some time, but you know. So be intentional, like Aqua said, is for you to set a goal. What do you need to do? What is important for you? Just keep finding out what is what is. So, Aqua, in regards to asking questions, what advice would you give parents, adults, especially from those backgrounds where they were not given the opportunity to ask questions? Now, as parents, they are there to probably for themselves first because they need to work on themselves to be able to support their children. What advice will you give to parents or to adults regarding asking questions?
Thank you, Nelly. Yes, asking questions is one of those things that sometimes, as you said, we find difficult because, as you said, if you're talking to a professional or somebody in authority, sometimes you're scared of asking questions. Not that you're scared of them, but you think that they know everything already. So you don't want to look like a fool in front of them sometimes. How many times have we been on courses and somebody says, this may be a silly question, but and trainers always try their best to encourage people to ask questions, to reassure people that there is no silly question. Because if you're thinking it, the probability is that somebody else is also thinking it. So maybe you're doing somebody else a favor by asking that question. So for us, or for people who struggle with asking questions, somebody who is going to give you some information that you may not really be versed with. Maybe do a bit of research in advance before you go and meet them, so that even when you're asking questions, you may not seem as silly as you may think. You give that boost of confidence that you have an idea of what is going on, a little bit about the topic. Just find out, just do a little bit of research. That will encourage you, that will give you, make you be more confident about the subject matter in such a way that if you have doubts and questions, then you are more likely to ask them. Secondly, write your questions down. Even if you've had done a bit of research, or even if you have not, and you know that, let's just take the example that I gave about language delay. You know that, okay, my child is delayed and I have an appointment with the health visitor, for example. Sit down and think about the different possibilities. What could happen in this meeting? What are some of the questions they may want to ask me? Think from their point of view as well. If they're going to ask because it's your child that you're taking, so you know your child. So they may want to know a bit more about your child. They may want to know about their circumstances at home. Maybe think reverse. I say, what are they going to ask me? And be confident about the information you're going to go and share. And then on the reverse side, if they ask you questions that are difficult, because if you know that if somebody's going to ask you these questions, maybe you reverse engineer it and find out maybe what am I going to want to know from them as well. If they're going to want to know my background, what am I going to want to know about them? Because they're going to ask me about my child, then it means that they have some information that they want to impart about my child. What is the information? So you're more likely to come up with some questions about the person you're going to see. Maybe even ask the question to get to know the person, because it's gonna, even if it's not about that subject matter, ask to know about that person you're in meeting. How are you today? How was your morning? Do you have a family? Do you have children? Just to break the ice so that you feel more confident, because when you have a little bit of small talk, it loosens you a bit. So write your questions down if possible. Like I said, do a little bit of research and ask about the person you're going to meet so that you get to know them as well as individuals. And please don't be scared. Nobody's going to eat you. They're only people like you. They may have a title, but they're people first before the title.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think that is massive, because yeah, breaking the ice that they are the position, they are the professional. Rather, if you look at them as human beings, because yes, some people take upon their position to be everything, but then if you go and focus on that person, yes, they have that more advanced information than you, but go there, because for that appointment, you are focusing on your child and you want to know the best for your child. So yes, thanks for those steps that Aqua has said. Let's develop that mindset. It will go back to mindset. Have that open mindset that this is your child. You need to do the best for your child. You need to get the correct information for your child. Ask those questions. So yes, thank you, Aqua, for that. Any additional information on that?
Questioning. I was just thinking, like they are the expert on whatever topic that you're coming to talk to them about. You are the expert on yourself and your child. That's Nelly's motto. You're an expert on your life, lived experiences. So please don't be scared of people. They are only people. They're not the position that they hold. And you know, Sometimes they are even as apprehensive about the meeting as you are. So that the position, the badge may just give them a little bit extra confidence because they have the organization behind them. But you have your whole child behind you. You're advocating for your child. We talked about advocating for our children previously. So yeah, you have, when you're speaking on your behalf, sometimes you can be nervous, but when you're speaking for somebody who hasn't got a voice, it gives you an extra dose of confidence and boldness because it is for them. So it's important to give your children the voice.
Yeah, thanks for that. Something just came up. So sometimes language can be a barrier, massive, massive barrier. And even some people who speak English, the English people don't understand the English that they speak, and that one, it will dampen your confidence, the parents' confidence, because making a sentence, they might have to repeat it like 3-4 times, and the professional or whoever doesn't understand. I don't know if you have any suggestions, any ideas that you can give to parents who know they are struggling with the English language when they're going for things like appointments for their children.
Yes. So if you can, ask in advance for an interpreter to be present. If you know that language is a barrier, like I said before, write your questions down. And if it's going to be difficult, write as many questions as you can before the appointment. But if it's for the NHS, for example, if the appointments are booked in advance, they're more likely to book an interpreter if you need one. So it depends on the service you're going for. And like for us, I work with NHS as well. So we book an interpreter in advance. If I'm going to do an assessment, I'll ask the parents if they need an interpreter, because most often than not, we work with people from different backgrounds. And so we book the interpreter in advance. Even if it's on the telephone, sometimes you have to do a 3-way call. So it's important. And these organizations, for example, the NHS doesn't like it, like family members to be the interpreters, because it is not professional, and the information that they share cannot be independently verified as in like a neutral person. So the person who is interpreting could tell you whatever. And because you do not understand the language, you are not going to know exactly what they have said, what the original person says. So, but if you have a professional organization or professional interpreter there, then their own thing is on the line if they said something that is not right, or that they add to the information or they subtract from the information. So it is key that we find an interpreter.
Yes, thank you so much. So to get to that position, to know that the organization or the professional needs to get an interpreter, you, the parent, it's your responsibility to tell them that you are not fluent in English and you will need that extra support because you want to get the best out of that session. If they cannot provide an interpreter, then they know, or you know, that you've told them that you need that support. So in that case, they are not supporting you appropriately because you will not get the information you need and you will not be able to give them the information. So then it is not balanced. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Aqua. So any other thing before we?
Right, I just had a few things that, a few extra tips really about being intentional. So it is important that we tune out the noise. Like we talked about, not being distracted. We live in an environment where there's a lot of noise. Doesn't necessarily mean that the noise is bang, 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 bang around you. The noise are the different things that can distract us. Our phone can be noise. People in the environment can be noise. So when you want to be intentional, it's important that you know exactly what you want to do, and you find an environment. If it's about work, then you find the right environment to put yourself in. If you are going to do a study, for example, put yourself in a quiet place and study. If it's about the intentional building a relationship, put those distractions away as well, because sometimes you're in a restaurant, for example, with somebody and you're both on your phones. Why did you even come there? You should have stayed at home and maybe even talk on the phone. Maybe you even have a better conversation then, rather than come and sit on the restaurant and everybody is on their tablet and you're not, So let's remove those distractions out of the way. And it is important that we, these distractions not pull us from our core values. Because if you don't know your core values, you're going to really be blown about by any which wind that comes. So our values and our intentions are very important. So we need to identify what our values are, because sometimes we do not know what our values are. Sure. So do you know what you believe in? What do you stand for? What drives you? It's important to know these things. And obviously set goals, set your intentions for the day, and things, and refocus when you get distracted, because inadvertently there will come times when you're distracted. You may be distracted by kids, you may be distracted by the phone, but refocus. Don't stay in the distraction zone. Don't say, okay, I'm just going to watch a TV program for 30 minutes just to relax, and then 3 hours later, what have I been doing? Refocus. Create small shifts. So don't try and achieve too much too soon or in one go. Give your space yourself so that you recognize what you have done. Nelly always says, pat yourself on the back. Recognize the little things that you have done. Because if you do not celebrate the little achievements, the little milestones that you take on a daily basis, you're not going to celebrate the big ones, because you'll always be looking for bigger, which will never come, because you will never appreciate the things, because it's the little things that add up to make the whole. So appreciate the little shifts and the little distinctions that you make on a daily basis. And then you might want to create a vision board. If you're a long-term person, we all should have vision boards. Not necessarily, but know exactly, to have it in your mind, but know where you're going. Because if you don't have a destination, your intentions are not going to take you anywhere. You may get up this morning and I intend to do something, but if you do not take the right direction, you're going to, and if you want to go north and you don't take the right direction, you may end up south or east or west, but you intended to go there. So your intentions are not always enough. It's the action that you take that matters. And so if remind yourself of what you intended to do. Don't just get up in the morning and say, I intend to be nice this morning. And you're nice in the morning, you're nice in the first conversation. And then the next conversation, you blow it, you shout at the kids and you're just like, oh, I give up. No, you do not give up. You refocus. Remind yourself, what did I intend to do today? Come back. Okay, I've fallen. Yes, I've fallen. And pick yourself up and get on with it. And give yourself a break. That's very important. Give yourself a break. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that your own intentions now become a burden on you. No, give yourself a break. You are a human being like anybody else. Sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes people are going to distract you. So pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and continue the journey.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Aqua. So just this time, I've been told off by Aqua so many times. So
no, go on, Nelly. I didn't say that you should not talk. Share. We're learning.
So what I'll talk about is goals. When we talk of goals, it looks like a massive thing, and it's like when you set a goal, you must achieve it. But just thinking of that, yeah, we set a goal as a guide to direct us where we want to go to or what we want to achieve. So we set actions to drive us towards that goal. Yes, sometimes you can get distracted, but get back on, like Aqua has said, refocus. The goal is there as a guide. Sometimes you might plan to achieve something, but you might plan to, you might have a goal, but then you don't achieve exactly that particular goal. So the goal is just for guidance. it can be, the actions can be flexible. It doesn't mean that when you say you have to say, be nice for the day, and then say you wake up in the morning and someone slaps you on the jaw, you say, oh, I'm just being nice today. No. Sometimes you need to be flexible about it, but still focus on the goal that you want to achieve. And then boundaries, very, very important. Set boundaries and maintain those boundaries, because you get distracted and stay distracted because you've not set yourself boundaries. And then time management is another one, which, yeah, it's massive. Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
And like Aqua said, I've been telling her, put your actions on your calendar. You've got a phone, put it there, put it there, put it there. So when that time comes up, you'll get a reminder on your phone and you look at it. Even if you don't want to do it, but you know that that is what you are meant to be doing. Sometimes you might have that guilty mind that this is what you're meant to be doing now, but then you're like, no. So yeah,
Something we need to do is we should be willing to learn.
Yeah,
we should be willing to learn, because if you're not open to learning, you are going to struggle a lot. You may know everything. There are people who maybe think that they know everything and they're self-sufficient, but we must be willing to learn, because if you're not learning,
if you are not learning, you are dying. I think people who think that they know everything, those are the ones with the limited mindset. Because if you look at it, people who have the growth mindset, they always feel like they don't know, which is why they get into learning and learning. Because when you learn something and you think that you know it, you realize that, oh, within that thing, there are many other things that you didn't even think about, you didn't even know, and then you get to learn. So learning is never ending until the day you die.
Until you die.
And that's how you grow.
I'm telling you, Nelly, doing these programs have opened my eyes to a lot of things. Because even being this intentionality thing, when I was planning it, all what I've said today is something that I have learned. It's not something that when I was thinking about this topic, I knew. Yes, I knew a few of the things that we've talked about, like setting goals and things like that, and being purposeful about the way you interact with people and talking to people. But that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. That was not enough information to come and do a show about. So I had to go on the internet. I had to research. I had to find out what do other people talk about. What do other people say about this topic? These are not my original ideas. So we don't reinvent the wheel. We learn from other people. Most information that we get is something that somebody already had. So we are just unaware because we haven't looked. And like yesterday, like I said, it just keeps going back to Bible. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't seek, you don't find. If you don't knock, no door will be opened. So we have to want to do it in order to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't remember who said it, but when we experience things, that is us being human being and not human doing. But then when we can gather information from anywhere, but it is very different. Information or knowledge is different from experiencing it. And sharing your knowledge increases your experience, because you are not just talking about it, but you go through some processes. Because I'm sure when you were doing this research, you did not just pick up one article. You must have picked up many different articles to pick and choose what resonates with yourself and linked to this topic in particular and to our audience. So
Mhm.
yes, when we teach what we learn or what we know, we teach ourselves, because as we are having this conversation and talking, sometimes you have different thoughts. And then it's like, oh, I didn't think about this at the start, but it has come now. So when
Yeah.
we talk, it's not that we know too much, it's just
Mm.
that we share what we have. And in
Yeah.
this process of sharing, new ideas come up and we learn. And even after this, we might still go. I know I'm guilty of that. I'll still go and do some research on other things that come up, and
Mhm.
that's just how the gaining knowledge increases. So,
Yeah.
yep. Any last thing before we finish, Aqua?
No. Like, I can only give an example. I learned something about this temperament thing that I was saying. The lady said she went to the shop, and she's one of those melancholic people. She went to the shop and she was at the checkout, and she just wanted to say hi to this checkout lady. You know, want to be nice and tell them, just ask a question just to be friendly, not just you don't want to hear the life history. So she asked this question: "Oh, when you finish your shift and that kind of thing, just to make conversation, so that she just doesn't come and stand there." And she said, "This girl went to, oh, I'm going to be finishing in the next 1 hour. I am driving with my friends to others. I am this, I am that. She said, like the melancholic person that she is, she had to make a choice there and then, whether to just show that face like, I don't want to hear about your life story, or she chose and intentionally encouraged that, oh, that must be very exciting, that you're going to have so much fun with all these your friends, you know. So we choices, it's not like it doesn't have to be big. The little choices that we make on a daily basis are
Yeah,
important
you
one.
know, just thinking about that is when you show that you care, people are mostly ready to talk, because that lady might have just spoken, but she had an intention. And again, the intention could have been or might have been a positive one to get that, because there's something called the energy or the vibration that goes on a lot, a lot. I don't want us to go to something else. So,
Yeah.
okay, this is the end of this show. Aqua, thank you so much for this. So, Aqua has told us that to being intentional, we need to be purposeful. That is the beginning. We need to focus. Even if you get distracted, refocus, come back, and then take action. So, Aqua, how can anyone find us or find out more about us?
Yes, we welcome every suggestion, every comment, and you can find us on www.handhandcommunitycic.com. handhandcommunitycic.com. You find out about our services, what we offer, and how you can and send us a message on how we can work together. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day, and see you next week.
See you
Bye
next
bye.
week. Bye.